I think Indian fashion industry is extremely toxic. It was such a horrible experience for me. Like, how do I look good at home? If you have too many brands on your outfit, you are an advertisement, you're not stylish.
Hi everyone, I'm Meera from Stories of Meera, and today I have someone very special with me here today, Lakshita from Dress Better.
Thank you for having me.
I have always been very intrigued by her. She had a decades-long career before stepping into content creation entrepreneurship, and I have so many questions for her today.
I'm ready for your questions, and I'm so happy to be here with you to have a conversation because let's spill it, man. Like, we've been talking about it since so long. Let's just spill it for the audience today.
You've given me so many sneak peeks into the horror stories from your time in fashion, and I have learned so much from you about personal styling. So today I want to ask you, how did you get into fashion?
This is a question that a lot of youngsters ask me, especially young women. And personally, for me, I took a very long journey to get to fashion before actually working in fashion. So I'm coming from a very simple middle class Punjabi family, and working in fashion was a very far fetched idea, and also there was a taboo around it. So they used to think, okay, fashion. So the fashion movie of Madhur Bhandarkar used to come to their brains. So that was not something that was a very comfortable choice for me. Of course, I had to revolt a lot, rebel a lot to even get into it. But how I started into it was through fashion internships. A grade student in my school, I was studying commerce. I went to Delhi University in the North Campus. I was taking the normal path of how a middle class child would take. But I was doing fashion internships on the side always because that was one industry that I was really interested in. And I used to get 100 rupees per day from my father for all of my kharcha, all of my expenses. So even the metro couldn't be covered by that. So I'm not at all coming from that kind of a privilege. My parents made me work hard for the money, and I was doing the internships to actually supplement for my, you know, going out with my friends, or the volunteerings that I was doing for ISEC, or any other social causes that I was a part of. So I was earning as well as studying. And since I did 8 internships in fashion in 3 years, I built a portfolio. So that really helped me. And after that, after I did my bachelor's, I thought, okay, clearly I see my resume and I have a lot of interest in fashion. So why not do my further course in that? So I got a All India rank 21
wow.
for NIFT, and I went to NIFT Delhi, and I did a 1 year course from there. It's fashion and clothing tech, and I had a degree as well. So I was like, okay, now I'm confident. Maybe now I can jump into the fashion industry, and so I did. But I did not have a very good experience there when I started working there.
Okay. Do you want to expand more about that? And what did you do after NIFT? Like, did you get placed straight from NIFT?
No, I did not get placed from NIFT. I had to hustle hard. I was sending on resumes to at least 8 to 10 companies every day back in 2016. It was kind of tough, and there were a lot of rejections. And I realized that you need connections, man. You need connections to be a part of the fashion industry, because people don't really give you heed. Also, getting a job in fashion which is paid is also a big deal. So I did a few internships in fashion when I was studying in NIFT, and I did not get paid. There are horrible, horrible stories. So one of the internships that I did, it was a big designer. I don't want to take the name, but it was a big fashion designer. I was interning with them for winter. And of course, that was through connections. I did not have anyone in my family also or in my circle to give me that kind of a jack. But I reached out to random people on LinkedIn to connect me to someone who was working in fashion. And as a 21, 22-year old, I finally got an internship. I used to travel 4 hours a day in the metro without getting paid, without a stipend, with 100 rupees a day. and some of my savings to get to that internship where I was not getting paid. And I just worked for 14 days there. And it was such a horrible experience for me, a person who's just stepping into this corporate world. Um, there were two sons of the designer. One son was handling the management part, the business, and the other one was doing the design part. And one day, I was sitting in the office area, the private office area, with the sales staff to have lunch with them. And in that private office area, there were 3 seats. So we took the seats. The son sees me from behind the curtain and he shouts across the showroom floor, "Hey, you, get up from here," to me. And I was really young at that time. And I got scared. What just happened? So he's like, "You, yes, I'm speaking to you. Get up from that seat." And the sales staff is looking at me and I'm looking at them and I don't know what happened. And he said, "This is my seat. Get up from here and get out. I know what you're doing." I had no idea. I was just having lunch and I was a student who was supplementing her coursework. And that was such a rude shock to me to understand that this is such a mom and pop kind of an industry, even though, like it's so forward, it's fashion. That's the glitzy and glamoury image that youngsters have about fashion industry in India, especially. But it's so nascent. People are not evolved. The second thing with that internship itself, the second son, who was a designer, I was sitting in their factory that day trying to work on some designs, and the son was trying to have a normal conversation with me about what I've been doing in NIFT, etc., etc. And the mother sees me speaking to the son, and she starts shouting at me, saying that, "तुम यहाँ पे काम करने आती हो या बतियाने आती हो? तुम्हें समझ नहीं आ रही?" And I was like, what just happened? The son is trying to talk to me. So basically, it was such a weird example for me that got set how the fashion industry truly is. And I got scared. I did not understand what happened. I left that internship in 14 days. It was a toxic environment, did not get paid, did not get trained. I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, but it was just not a good experience. But still, I was like, okay, if I've chosen this path, let's go and get a job. So I finally got a job at 30,000 rupees per month. Um, it was a very new age startup. And they were a part of a very big company. This was my first ever job, which was paid. And there, the women who were coming to work were extremely elitist. They used to check you out from head to toe, see what you're wearing. So I was someone who was on budget. So I used to go to Janpat and Sarojini Nagar to shop. And I used to just mix and match with my own knowledge and whatever money I used to have that I'd saved through internships, and just go into this fashion job where everyone's looking so nice. And I used to enter the office space and they used to look at me like this. And then they used to just giggle with each other, like, what is she wearing? So I was just trying my best, but because they had their coach and Michael Kors, and they were getting dropped by their personal driver, their cars. They could shop in good malls. I was not feeling like I was a part of it. And fashion industry is definitely very elitist when it comes to having brands. If you have brands, you have a say. If you don't have it, then you don't have a say. And personally, I'm trying to change that. It was a really horrible experience for me. This is just one of the things I've faced a lot of things that I would not be able to tell in this podcast, but that happened.
Those sound like really toxic workplaces, and I'm sure
was.
that must have been traumatizing for you. Did that affect you after you left that internship?
I think Indian fashion industry is extremely toxic. It's a very nascent space still, even though it's been a few years. Fashion brands have evolved, but their mindset, the people who are behind those fashion brands, they have not evolved. Every day, every few weeks, we keep on seeing stories when someone did not get paid, or someone has faced a very toxic management in this fashion industry, in the warehouses where they work, but nothing happens. It's very unregulated. So Indian fashion space really needs to change. And I lost my voice for sure. After this stint, which I did for like 8 to 9 months, I lost a lot of weight. I became 40 kgs. because it took a severe toll on my mental health. And I had to quit because it was affecting my health. I did not want to disappoint my parents, who were not pro with me doing a fashion job, two were not pro with me doing a job because they wanted me to get married as soon as I was in college. So I'm coming from that kind of a background. So it was a definite disappointment that me leaving a job, what will my parents think? They'll just marry me off. But I did. And for the next 6 months, I just couldn't work. I was so burnt out. I was a burnt toast. And I had to join Toastmasters. It's a platform where you try and learn how to speak in public. So I joined Toastmasters for 6 months, and I won a few certificates in the Delhi chapter. So that's how I found my voice, by speaking in front of so many people.
So, what advice would you give to young women starting their careers in fashion today?
I think the first thing that they need to realize is they definitely need to have some kind of a connection to get into the industry, be it someone from your family, your friends, or like me, you could just reach out to people on LinkedIn or random events that you go to, and just ask people if you know someone in fashion, if you need an assistant, and start assisting. Once you assist, you would understand that it's not all glitzy and glamoury. You need to see what the reality is. There's a lot of hustle. I used to be on my feet for 14 hours a day when I was working as an assistant to the stylist. So it was kind of crazy. After assisting, once you see what it truly is, then you make up your mind if you really want to be in fashion or not. The second thing is always supplement your fashion degree with a business degree. So if you're doing, say, fashion designing, then do a master's in business administration as well, or a fashion MBA. So you can actually have a career in the business side of things as well, because just creativity without Jack, without having your mom or your pop having a brand which you can handle later, it's not going to get you paid. So have a connection and have a business degree for yourself. That is two things that I would definitely give advice on. And the third thing also, if I was a big sister and giving advice, is have a thick skin. There's a certain kind of a person who's required to work in fashion, and that is the kind of person who's friends with everyone but actually friends with no one. So you need to be friends with everyone, be sweet to the face, know how to make connections, be everyone's pally friend, if you're not coming from connections or Jack or money. And just have a thick skin. Things are going to happen, but you can be the change maker. You can be the first person who can create a positive impact and environment for others.
Okay, and how about the influencer industry? That's how I met you. How long have you been doing that?
This is one of the most positive things that I've taken from fashion and content creation, is meeting you. We met at a random event, and truly that was my first ever event that I ever went to as an influencer. Influencer being the word, content creator. And I'm so glad that I met you. And this is one of the most positive things I feel are about events, the networking. If you take out the actual formal networking here, it's about creating one-on-one connections, right? So I took like 2 months, and I think the first conversation we ever had was us telling us each other's life story, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It was so crazy. I'm so glad I met you there. Now that I've been in the industry for 2 years, I tried to be an influencer since 2017 when it was new, when that boho girl and all these big influencers were the OG ones. They came to picture, but I was, of course, doing a job. I wanted to have that career, so I couldn't do it. But now it's been 2 years, and I can maybe as a crux, I can say that it's very elitist. If you want to make it big in fashion as a content creator, you need to have a certain YSL, a coach, Burberry with you, a Prada sunglass, so that people can take you seriously. When you're going to events, you're judged on that. Even so many brands who are such aspirational brands, they first see your profile and see, okay, how many brands does she have? Does she own a Dyson? They have a Dyson Airwrap, and then they think of you if they want to send their product, because they want a certain aspirational side to their brand as well, because they're looking for certain content creators who are matching their aesthetic, right? So they will only associate with such people. Like one of my talent managers, she came up to me and she was like, Lakshata, we need to make your profile a little premium if you want to work with such brands. So that's where my eyes opened. And I still get so many rejections. I got rejected from 2 or 3 brands recently where I got to know that I'm not premium enough. And as a person who has been earning her own money, pays her own rent, handles everything by herself, I did not get an inheritance of a YSL or a coach, or coach is still not luxury. I got to know coach is not luxury very recently. But for me, a middle class person, coach is luxury. That's a lot of money. But I did not acquire a Jimmy Choo, right, from my mother. So I'm still earning for it. And the influencers who get those opportunities now, I get skipped. They get it because they're living in a certain house, which is looking premium, and they have that certain kind of a handbag, and I don't have it. So elitism is there, one for sure. The second thing is these events, they're more about creating connections. It's about visibility, but you create amazing connections. I've made amazing connections across so many public relations representatives I've met through these events, and I've made friends like you who's sitting right next to me right now.
So, what advice would you give a budding content creator?
I would say get started. Don't think so much about it, and just start posting. Even if you think it's not up to mark, it's not up to a certain level or a quality that you think of in your mind, still just start posting, because Instagram definitely favors people who post every day. I'm gonna say that people are gonna agree or disagree, but Instagram does favor, the algorithm, the app favors people who post every day. And even if you think it's not up to mark, no problem, just post it. You will improve every day. And I would say start speaking to the camera. On day 1 you'll be shy, day 2 you might fumble, but on day 3, day 4, and day 5 you will be so much better. You'll get confidence as you go. So I used to tremble when I used to talk to the camera. Sometimes I still do, and sometimes I still need to shoot one line 5 times. But as I'm going, it's been 2 years, I know by year 4, if this industry still stays, I will be much better, and this will be a second skin to me.
I am so glad I never had to work in the fashion industry. It sounds truly horrible from what you described.
It was horrible. It was truly horrible, yeah.
Yeah, but did you explore any other industry other than just fashion?
I did actually after this, because I did Toastmasters and I was able to gain some confidence. I started in advertising. Of course, because I was a creative person who was, very much inclined towards these things, I was like, maybe I should try my hand in advertising, marketing, branding as well. My brain used to work there. So again, I used to send out 100 resumes every day. One agency did finalize me. I did their assignments and all, of course, whichever is required for the interview process, and I got into it. But again, like, they knew this is a new person, a youngster on a, but they knew that I'm a fresher, just starting out. This is a starting level role. I was working 14 to 16 hours a day. So I got burnt out there, and it doesn't really pay so much when you're starting out early. Uh, it was a very nice experience working in advertising, because I learned a lot. I worked with a lot of brands. I understood how the industry works behind the scenes. Influencer management and marketing was just starting out, so I just dabbled into it a little. I worked behind the scenes of influencer marketing a little. So now I'm a content creator. Where earlier I was managing content creators also. So then I worked in various brands later after advertising, and there's one thing that I worked in advertising, and later on, I went on to work with various brands as well, because after advertising, the pathway goes to working with brands. And that was again a very nice experience, not as stressful as ads, because you're handling 4 to 5 clients as an account manager in advertising. But when you work with brands, you are just handling that one brand. So that's kind of nice. It was a very good experience. Of course, when you have like 5 to 6 years of experience, by that time your salary scale also increases. So I was happy. Where I struggled, I would say, was the fact that since I was always sartorially inclined, I love to dress up. and go to work, because I feel you need to dress up for the job you want, not the one you have. You need to dress up for how you actually truly feel. And I used to dress up like that, and I used to go to office, and I became a target.
Wait, what do you mean you became a target?
So if you're dressing a certain way, you stand out, right? Like I used to go wear blazers and have pumps and my, nice crisp shirts. But in Indian workspaces, in Indian work culture, in Indian offices, people do not really dress up so well. They are very comfortable with their sweatshirts and their sneakers with jeans. People do not really care about how they're looking, especially women in the workplaces. I've seen women wearing transparent heels with bejeweled sequences in the office with a see-through pant. That has happened. They've been with sweatshirts and sneakers, and when someone is looking a certain way and they have their hair in a nice shiny ponytail, they get very toxic. And I've never faced any toxicity when it comes to companies. It's always about a manager, a woman manager, especially women in the workspaces. Women in the workspaces, especially, it becomes very toxic because a women manager is always toxic to another female employee. That's a thing I've seen across all the companies that I've ever worked in. And I don't know why that happens. I really want to change it. And when I started this community that I have, Dress Better on Instagram, this is made out of 93% women. So I have around 450,000 followers. I say friends, my family on Instagram, and 93% of them are women. And the one thing I keep posting and preaching about is the fact that this space is where women are for women. We support each other. There's no toxicity, there's no criticism, there's just guiding each other to dress better. And with dressing better comes a lot of things. There's a lot of mind shift change as well that I talk about on my channel. So because I faced so much toxicity from women, when I was going for entrepreneurship, I was like, I have to create a platform where we need to change this.
So I'm really surprised that women in India don't dress up for the job that they want. But coming from the US, maybe I expect a different sense of style in the workplace.
Yeah, that's true, because I've just been in India. Of course, you've worked abroad, you've had your stint abroad. But here, the biggest challenge that I face with my clientele also who come for personal styling is that how do we dress up for office? What is appropriate for office? So women don't really know what to wear in office here. And they generally just go to their almirahs and fetch a jeans or a sweatshirt with sneakers because it's comfortable. And they just wear it to the office. One is if they're traveling in public transport, they feel comfortable if they're all truly covered. Second, like I mentioned, it gets toxic if you stand out. So that happens, and they just try and find something which is comfortable. But through my personal styling journey, I try and dress them up in an appropriate way, but also try and enhance their own personal characteristics also through their styling. So that is something that I do as well.
Yeah, so you've helped so many people transform their image, their sense of style, but the core question remains, why should anybody care about dressing well?
A simple answer to this is dressing well is about self-respect. If someone sees how you dress up, they can judge how you view yourself and how much you respect yourself. If you're wearing tattered clothes which are not ironed, they have spots, they are, not really well kept, people will judge. People will judge, and they will see that, okay, this person does not take him or herself so seriously. So why should we take them seriously? So fashion is about self-respect. It's not just about being neat or clean. And it's a research where people just take 3 seconds to actually judge you as a human being based on your appearance. So in those 3 seconds, you're not someone who would be introducing, okay, this is my background, mera baap kaun hai, yeah, this is the degree I have, right? The 3 seconds would be based on your appearance, and they will judge if they want to talk to you or if they want to make a connection with you. And for that, appearance and how you dress up is really important.
So it's funny that you said that, because my dad literally says the same thing, that even if you're going to the airport, you have to dress like you're about to meet the president.
Wow, that's so nice. Actually, I agree with Uncle. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people believe and say that I'll start dressing well once I'm successful, but is that something that you believe in?
I feel like the people who say कि कपड़ों में क्या रखा है are the ones who get ignored in rooms the most. I know it's a very rude, very cruel thing to say, but it's true. And your style attracts more opportunities before your talent does. Appearance matters more. Your style speaks before you do. So that's very important. कपड़ों में बहुत कुछ रखा है, and your कपड़े are gonna speak for you before you can even introduce yourself. So that's very important. So basically, the crux of the matter is that you need to start dressing up like how you want to be viewed. That's very important, because even if you have an entry level job, you need to start dressing like you are looking forward to being a manager someday. So have iron shirts that you're wearing, nice clean shoes, look sharp if you're working in corporate or any other place, so that people start taking you seriously because you take yourself seriously. Dressing up well is very important. And even if you're not successful, even if you have, let's say, 2000 3000 rupees budget, and you're going to a street market to shop something, just make sure that you are washing it well using a fabric softener, and just getting it ironed pretty well before you wear it outside, so that people can see that this person actually puts a lot of attention and effort into their appearance. It's very important. And then you will attract opportunities. I can tell you, it does happen.
I actually agree with everything that you just said, because I have personally seen
Yeah.
that people who dress for the jobs that they are trying to manifest are always more successful.
Yeah, that's very true. That does happen.
So I have a really interesting question for you now. In social media currently, there's a lot of debate about girl bosses versus feminine women, right? And that has a lot to do with style as well, with the
Right.
way you dress. Do you wear blazers? Do you wear soft, flowy dresses? But
Right.
for a successful career woman, can she be a girl boss and also be feminine in the way she dresses?
That's a very good question. And I have a very recent example. So I was watching
I have no
Fabulous
idea.
Lives versus Bollywood Wives. So it's on Netflix. So there's Shalini Pasi. She is one of the Delhi socialites who says that your energy changes when you dress up. When you change your dress, your energy changes. It is very true, because I feel like if you have a career and you're going to the office, you need to have your hyper masculinity in action, so that you can take decisions, you can actually lead the room. And that's where your power shoulders, your structured blazers come in picture, your stilettos, your sharply ironed trousers come in the picture. You need to look like you are an authority. You can actually channel your masculinity. But when it comes to feminine dressing style, you need to understand that your office also ends somewhere. And when your personal life is starting, and if you're a feminine girly girl, that's where you can switch. And that's where your wardrobe would help you mentally to switch. So once you're coming back from office and you let your power shoulder blazer, you hang it in the closet, and then you take out your nice sundress and you go out, that's where mentally also you're making a switch. Okay, this is the demarcation, this is the line, and now I'm changing into what I truly am. This is my preference. Like, for example, I love sequins. You're a more edgy person, I know that. So after this podcast, which is for my business or my career, once I go home, I would be wearing a nice flowy floral sequin dress, and I would understand this is my personal time. That's who I truly am in reality. So women need to understand that your dressing changes your energy, and a feminist girl boss is actually a human being who has certain preferences and can switch into the other role as well. You don't have to lead with just one role always.
You know, I actually have two Pinterest boards. One is for my business wardrobe, and one is for a wardrobe for the rest of the day. So I think
Wow.
I have subconsciously been doing that already.
That's so good. This is exactly what I advise my clientele to also do. Create a Pinterest board of what you actually want to dress up as. So you're already doing that. That's so nice. Yeah.
So I know it's true for me, but do you actually think that clothes change how we feel inside, or is it only changing how others perceive us?
Yeah, so I did a reel on this on my Instagram. There's this psychological fact called enclosed cognition. So, this is one of the factors that actually wire our brain. And what you wear kind of reflects your mood. So if you're in active wear all the time, and if you're wearing sneakers, you're more active. That's one of the very good examples. A lot of people tell us that, okay, once you wake up, just get into your sneakers or keep your gym outfit outside and just wear it in the morning, even if you are like lazy and you don't want to go to the gym. And that actually makes you feel like, once you wear it, that actually makes you feel like, okay, now that I'm up and about, let's go to the gym. And if you are just wearing your night suit and lounging about the whole day, then you'll feel lazy and you would not feel like stepping outside. Even if you have 5 errands, you'll just keep on putting them to the next day. And that happens with me a lot, like a lot. And that happens with a lot of clients that I work with as well, where they have been wearing these nighties, these auntie nighties, the OG nighties that ladies have. I personally love them. They're so airy. I love them. But if they're wearing that all the time, they do not feel that confident. They do not feel that they're confident. They're not feeling like they're looking sharp, and they don't really feel like they're beautiful. That is one of the biggest questions I get from women, like how do I look good at home? That happens. So for me, I tell them to make little changes in their home outfits also. Get a nicer slipper which has some diamonds or sequins on your feet, and put a lipstick on. Have some nice dainty earrings on yourself even at home, or wear a nice bracelet which is a waterproof bracelet. Even if you're working in the sink, it doesn't get tarnished. So I feel like these little changes rewire your brain and make you feel like you're dressed up and you can face the world. That does happen. It's a very important thing. If you dress up sharp, you're going to feel sharp in your mind. It does happen. So you're right here. You are totally right. It happens with a lot of people. And with my clients also, when I've dressed them up, like I'm personally giving them tips to even how to dress up at home, with the packages the ladies take with me, the consultations that they have. I make an entire wardrobe for them even for home. So usually people just wear things that are worn and torn at home. They don't want to invest money for whatever clothes they wear at home. But once they start wearing what I recommend them, which is comfortable according to their style, they start feeling like they can step out of the house, or call their sister up, or just get out and just go to the market also.
I didn't know that that phenomenon actually had a name,
Yeah.
enclothed cognition, because a lot of people in the tech industry went to work from home after COVID, and
Yeah.
all of them have said that whenever they dress up to work from home, they are much more productive than when they don't.
Right? This is backed by science, and people think कि अच्छा कपड़े is just vanity. That's not the case. कपड़े is not vanity, guys. Science है इसके पीछे.
Okay, so what do you have to say to people who always say that comfort is more important than style?
I would say that if you want to dress comfortable and go in track pants to your office, please feel free to go. But then be ready to get ignored, and people will not find you responsible, and they'll think that you're lazy. So, enclothed cognition, of course, comes in the picture here. If you are dressing up in trousers and shirts and you're going to the office, people will take you seriously. You'll take yourself seriously. You will be more presentable. You'll speak confidently. Your posture will be better. You'll sit upright, and you will be ready for the day. But if you're going in track pants and jeans to the next Zoom meeting, sitting at home, or even to the office in a linen drawstring pant, you will, in your mind, feel lazy. So be ready to skip that promotion if you do that.
You always talk about dressing for your body type. Why is that so important?
Dressing for your body type is the most important thing, because balance is key when it comes to styling someone. And if you're seeing a certain dress on a person, it's not necessarily a thing that it will suit you as well, because your body shape might be different from that person. In a very nascent way, we call it a pear-shaped body, or a rectangle, apple-shaped body, rectangle body. This is what we call it. But there are very different kinds of bodies across. And if you dress according to your body type, it will enhance your best features. So people will see the things that are actually good in your entire body. I mean, everyone's beautiful. They have the best, beautiful, unique features, but there are some things that make you more visually attractive, and that can be enhanced when you dress according to your body type.
I don't think most Indian women would even know these body types, right? Because ever since we were children, we have been told to stay away from fashion. So I'm guessing that most Indian women don't know how to dress for their body types.
Yes, you're right. Most Indian women don't even have basic lingerie knowledge, I would say, because I've had so many clients, and most of them don't know what kind of bra to wear under what. And that's not just with the clients, that's the DMs that I get on my page as well. Women are generally asking me what kind of bra to wear, what kind of shapewear to wear. They don't even know there are different kinds of bras that exist. You're going to this particular shop जहाँ पे आदमी is selling you a bra. He wouldn't know कि seamless bra कौन सी है. You wouldn't go and say भैया seams वाली bra दिखाना. He wouldn't know, right? So women, if they're going to these kind of shops, they're not able to explore, and also this kind of knowledge is not passed on to them. And people, ladies especially, they don't know उनकी body type क्या है, because they don't have exposure to that. And most of them are so exposed to Bollywood celebrities that they want to dress up like an Alia Bhatt, or they want to dress up like a Deepika Padukone, but maybe their body type is not the same as a Deepika, or their height, or their body type is not the same too as a Tamanna Bhatia, but they want to dress up like them. That's where the gap happens. Indian women want to look like the Bollywood celebrity, but their body type doesn't match. So that is a very big gap that I see.
So if someone wants to start their journey of dressing better, where should they start that?
I have an analogy, a very interesting analogy for this. So, when you're using Google Maps, when you're trying to navigate your way to a particular place, you first put in your own location, right? The same way is you need to see where you are at with your style right now. So, you need to open your wardrobe and you need to see what actually fits you, if it's your right size, if it's not torn, if it's in a good condition, if the color matches your actual liking, if the print is what you like for yourself. This is where the Pinterest board activity comes in picture. So the first step would be knowing where you are. Create a Pinterest board, or if you don't know what Pinterest is, just take a screenshot of the nice photos that you see on Instagram and just create a folder in your gallery in your phone. And after a few weeks, you can see what are the patterns that actually you recognize with, what are the colors you really like. And then you will understand that, okay, this is my liking, these colors are my choice. For example, for me, I love whites, I love beiges, I love pinks. For someone, it can be an orange, a burnt red, or something, a crimson. So you will understand what is your liking. And then once you know, okay, I love this model style, or I love Deepika Padukone style, or I like uh, Kareena Kapoor style. You start taking their screenshots. You understand what are the common characteristics there. Maybe she wears a lot of Indian, so you love Indian motifs and Indian prints. So that is very important to know where you want to be. First, where you are at, where your wardrobe is, and then where you want to be. That's the second step. And then you need to bridge that gap. And by bridging that gap, I mean letting go of those pieces from your wardrobe that do not recognize with your style. And you need to have room for the things that you actually want to wear. So you need to invest in those.
So you mentioned a lot of things here, figuring out the colors that suit you, the style that you want to dress for. What kind of clientele do you usually work with that wants to know all of this?
So I get Indian clients who are living in India, and I also get majority of NRI clients, because it's a very interesting thing. But NRIs do not get a lot of access to the actual real fashion scene that is happening in India. There's a story that was done by Diet Sabya, and he highlighted the fact that NRIs do not have good fashion sense, and it got a lot of controversy. But it's kind of true, because I work with NRI clients, and it's not because of their choices, it's because of the access and the information that they have for the current Indian scene. They see an Alia Bhatt wearing a particular lehenga, but that lehenga design might reach them after 5 years. So there's a lot of lag because of the industry, the import and export, or they not having access to that. But I have NRI clientele who come to me that can be a housewife or a businesswoman, and they just want to improve their styling. They want to be at par with people they are working with, because, like you mentioned, that and dressing for the job that they want, and that's kind of true. but Indians are now realizing it, and especially in those countries. So when in Rome is a very predominant factor there, and they see everyone dressing up well, so they also want to be taken seriously, and that happens. So NRIs do come to me for that.
These NRI women that are coming to you, are they usually coming for ethnic wear or are they coming for modern looks?
It's for everything. So it can range from a wedding that they have in their family, or it can be them dressing up in their general real life. They are housewives also. They're just going for their corporate job as well, but they just want to look polished because, like I mentioned, in India, in the workspace, the women are not dressing up. They're just wearing a sweatshirt and sneakers, but abroad, because they're surrounded by such people who are dressing up well, taking themselves seriously, our own people also want to dress up well, and that's where I get an NRI clientele.
And I'm guessing they contact you from across the world because they think that you would understand them better. Since you're in India, you're an Indian, you understand their cultural heritage.
Yes,
right?
bang on. Because I am the person who is bridging the gap for them to give them a real time update of, okay, this is what is trending here right now, and these are the brands that can actually ship to you. So buy this rather than the one that you are currently getting, which is a 4-year-old design style. This is where a personal stylist helps you to bridge the gap. So this is not just for my NRI clientele, but also normal people who are in India, normal citizens who are still residing here. Sometimes you're so caught up with your own life and your job that you do not really have time to catch up with what's happening in fashion, right? What is available, or you do not know what your body type is. So that's where a personal stylist like me comes in picture. We tell you, okay, these are your measurements, so you're this body shape, and your current wardrobe maybe works for you or it doesn't work for you depending on your body type, your lifestyle, and your choices. We create that board for you, which you envision in your mind, like what you envision in your mind, the mirror of your mind. We try and create that and bring that to life. So I do that for my Indian clientele and also NRIs.
I think that is so true because I work in the corporate industry as well, and I feel so overwhelmed at the thought of trying to figure out what to wear the next day. So I'm guessing women across tech sectors and
Yeah.
across all corporate sectors in India and
That does
abroad feel
happen.
the same
Yeah.
way.
The one of the most asked query to me is, okay, I need to create a wardrobe for myself for office, and I don't want to repeat my clothes every second, third day. So how can I look stylish, but also I'm on a budget, and also I don't want to repeat my clothes, but also I don't want to spend a lot of money. So there's where a capsule wardrobe comes in picture, where I give you basic pieces that build a foundation for your wardrobe, and then you can just mix and match them and create multiple looks out of that for your formal wear. So you look sharp and nice in office, but you don't break the bank. So that does happen. Yeah, I do that.
That sounds very interesting. If someone wanted to work with you, how would they contact you?
So you can just email me at consultancy@dressbetter.in. I hope they're flashing it on the screen here. And I have an Instagram page by the name of dressbetter.in. You can just go to my Instagram and slide into my DMs.
Let's switch gears for a second and talk about fashion faux pas. What mistakes do you see the most?
Okay. The one mistake that I see a lot is someone looking like they're wearing the entire dukan. So looking like a dukan means like you're wearing big earrings, then you're wearing a big necklace, then also the bangles, then also a sequined sari, then also a sequined bejeweled transparent heel, and then blonde hair with a juda. I know this sounds very mean, but that happens. That happens. And if you're looking like a dukan, nobody's gonna buy anything from you. That's what I want to say. But the advice that I want to give here is that you need to focus on one accessory. Maybe the accessory can be your outfit, or it can be the necklace you're wearing, but not everything together. And the other faux pas that I'm actually observing a lot is that people are fixated on logos. If they're wearing a Gucci shoe, the Gucci should be visible, the stripes. Balenciaga sweatshirt, the Balenciaga should be visible. Then they want to have an LV wallet and then a cap which has some kind of branding. And if they're covered with brands, then that means that they've made it or they should be considered. That's what they feel, that brands is equal to how high value they are. And that's not true. You'll just look like an advertisement. If you have too many brands on your outfit, you're an advertisement, you're not stylish. So that's one of the faux pas. Yeah. The people who actually have money and the people who are actually high value are the people who do not believe in advertising the logo. They believe in the fabric quality, the cut of the outfit, and how comfortable that outfit is making them feel rather than the logos.
I've noticed that people who actually dress really well, even if they have a lot of money, they usually go for really good homegrown brands over brands like Louis Vuitton and Gucci. Like they prefer linen, cotton. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
That's very true. They like understated luxury rather than anything which is very easily available or is seen on every second person. They can also buy from homegrown labels, and it can cost as low as 500 rupees, but they want something which is of a nice quality that's going to last. Because when someone's sitting with you, they can judge, even though they're not into the technicality, they can still judge if the shirt you're wearing is of a high end make or not. It's through the stitching, it's through the buttons, it's through the whole look of the shirt. So people who are high value are coming from such privilege, they do focus on the fabric quality, the cut, the kind of stitching there is, the buttons, everything together makes an outfit.
And for someone that's on a budget, how can they still look stylish without spending too much money?
This is what I keep on telling everyone, that you don't need a Gucci or a YSL, or you don't really need to shop from Zara or an H&M to look stylish. You don't need to break the bank. You do not need to spend a lot of money to look stylish, because it's about creativity. It's about having a sense of confidence in actually what you like. So you don't really have to dress according to trends all the time. You can invest in basics like a white shirt or a beige shirt or a nice linen pant or a nice denim skirt, and just be confident with that. And it can just cost around 800 rupees or 1000 rupees or even less than that, doesn't matter. But it's about creativity. How many basic pieces you have in your wardrobe that you can mix and match to create multiple outfits. That's creativity. That's where styling comes in picture. So money and logos and brands, they do not matter when it comes to looking stylish and looking good. What matters is creativity and style. You can look good on a budget.
And finally, what's the one core message that you want people to take away for dressing better?
I would again say that dressing well is a form of self respect. And if you respect yourself, you would dress up well, you would take yourself seriously, you would like to decorate yourself, right? Just how you get a car and you try and put nice accessories on it and you choose the color of the car, right? The same way is how you putting clothes on yourself is. If you're choosing a nice color to wear, if you're uh, choosing a nice silhouette to wear, a nice outfit to wear, that just means you're decorating yourself. You respect yourself, you love yourself. I'm sorry, I just compared ourselves to a car or an object, but that's true. It's a form of decorating, be it jewelry, be it makeup, be it outfits. If you respect yourself, you're going to do that. And if people see you're respecting yourself, they will respect you.
You know, one of my mottos in life is to always treat yourself as a temple and decorate yourself like you would decorate the altar of a temple. So that makes perfect sense. Lakshita, this has been such a ride. You talked about everything from your horror stories in the fashion industry, from getting into content creation and how women can start dressing better now. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for all your honesty.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved having this conversation with you. It's always so comfortable. And I would love to have a parting note for women across. So, whoever is watching, be it from India, anywhere from the world, I would say dress up for yourself. Be you, because there are so many others around. And if you're dressing up for likes, or you are dressing up as a celebrity, or you saw someone wearing a certain thing and you loved that, it's not gonna satisfy you in the long run. So understand what you like, what you are as a human being, and what you would prefer, and that's going to give you so much confidence and a surety. And just be you. You're unique, you know. Everyone else is taken. And if you want the real stuff, you can subscribe to my channel, Dress Better with Lakshita on YouTube. And on Instagram, which is dressbetter.in, that's where the real action happens. I keep on posting so many reels and posts about how to dress up better for yourself. So do that. And if you want to get in touch with me for any kind of personal styling consultancy, you can always email at consultancy@dressbetter.in. And thank you so much, Meera. This is my friend
You're
at
most
the rate
welcome.
Stories of Meera on Instagram.
Yeah, you're most welcome. It was wonderful being here with you.
Thank you.